A human born from a tiger's belly. How does this shocking true story play out? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The jungle was alive with the whispers of ancient magic, its dense canopy filtering specks of sunlight onto the emerald floor below. Among the towering trees and the hum of life, there was a clearing bathed in golden light, where the unimaginable unfolded. A tiger, its amber eyes reflecting both power and profound sorrow, lay curled protectively around a newborn baby. The village of Sunderdeep, nestled at the edge of this mysterious jungle, had always been plagued by tales of the supernatural. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of the forest's guardian spirit, a tiger said to be neither fully beast nor divine. Many dismissed the stories as mere folklore, yet the elders swore on the gods that the jungle held secrets too dangerous to uncover. Amara, a young herbalist, was one of the few in the village unafraid of the jungle's whispers. Driven by her insatiable curiosity and a rare gift of sensing life in its rawest form, she often wandered deep into the forest in search of rare plants. One fateful evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of crimson, Amara stumbled upon a sight that would change her life forever. The tiger lay motionless at first, its enormous body heaving with exhaustion. But what stole Amara's breath was the golden glow emanating from its belly, a light so radiant it seemed otherworldly. As she crept closer, her hands trembling, she saw the source of the glow. Baby. Naked, untouched by the grime of the jungle, and cradled as if the tiger itself had given birth to it. Amara's gasp broke the fragile silence, and the tiger's head snapped up. Its eyes, glowing with an unearthly intensity, locked onto hers. Fear rooted her to the ground, but there was no malice in the tiger's gaze, only a deep, haunting plea. The tiger slowly backed away, retreating into the shadows, leaving the child behind. Amara hesitated for only a moment before rushing to the baby, scooping it into her arms. The warmth of the infant was like nothing she'd ever felt, a comforting heat that seemed to pulse with life itself. Her instincts screamed at her to return to the village, but as she turned, a low growl echoed behind her. The tiger was watching, its eyes issuing a silent warning. This child was not ordinary, and neither was its destiny. Amara returned to Sunderdeep under the cover of night, cradling the child tightly. The village erupted in chaos when they saw her. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the baby was cursed, a harbinger of doom, while others whispered it was a gift from the gods. The village elder, Bhaskar, demanded an explanation. The tiger, Amara began, her voice shaking. It birthed this child. I don't know how, but this baby is not like us. It glows, it's warm, there's something more to it. Bhaskar's face darkened. You should have left it there, Amara. The jungle's secrets are not ours to meddle with. You've brought something unnatural into our midst. But Amara refused to abandon the child. She named him Ayan, a name meaning gift of the divine, and vowed to raise him as her own. The villagers, though wary, couldn't ignore the baby's miraculous presence. His golden glow dimmed over the weeks but never fully disappeared, and as he grew, so did the mysteries surrounding him. Ayan was no ordinary child. By the age of 3, he could communicate with animals, his laughter sending birds into melodious song and his cries summoning creatures from the jungle. The villagers, initially fearful, began to see him as a blessing. Crops flourished, illnesses faded, and even the most barren lands sprouted life wherever Ayan tread. But not everyone was convinced of his divinity. Linda, a midwife with a sharp tongue and an even sharper mind, often clashed with Amara. This boy isn't a blessing, she hissed one evening. He's a ticking time bomb. Mark my words, Amara, the jungle will come for him. And when it does, it'll take us all. Her warnings seemed like baseless paranoia until strange things began to happen. Animals that had once been peaceful started appearing on the village's outskirts, their eyes glowing eerily like the tiger's. The jungle's once melodious hum turned into an ominous roar at night, and villagers began to disappear without a trace. Fear crept back into Sunderdeep and fingers pointed at Ayan. Amara, though steadfast in her love for the boy, couldn't ignore the growing tension. She sought out the village's reclusive shaman, Anika, a woman said to have one foot in the mortal world and the other in the realm of spirits. Anika listened intently as Amara recounted the events surrounding Ayan's arrival and the recent disturbances. This child, Anika said, her voice grave, is not entirely human. He carries the essence of the jungle spirit, the same spirit that manifests as the tiger. He was born to bridge two worlds, ours and theirs. But such power comes with a price. What price? Amara demanded. Balance, Anika replied. For every blessing he brings, chaos will follow. The jungle is restless because it feels its spirit has been stolen. If the boy remains here, the village will suffer. But if he returns to the jungle, I cannot say what fate awaits him. Amara was torn. How could she send her son, the child she had raised and loved, into the unknown? Yet, how could she condemn her village to destruction? As the days passed, the tension in Sunderdeep reached a boiling point. Villagers demanded that Ayan be returned to the jungle, while Amara fought desperately to protect him. Then one fateful night, the tiger returned. It appeared at the edge of the village, its glowing eyes visible even in the darkness. The villagers gathered, armed with torches and weapons ready to defend themselves. But the tiger didn't attack. Instead, it let out a deafening roar, and the jungle seemed to come alive around it. Trees swayed violently, animals howled, and the ground trembled. Ayan, now 5 years old, stood frozen, his golden glow intensifying as he stared at the tiger. Amara, the boy said softly, it's calling me? No? Amara cried, clutching him tightly. You're my son. You belong here with me? But the tiger stepped closer, and Ayan began to glow brighter, his body radiating warmth that pushed the villagers back. The boy turned to his mother, tears streaming down his face. I love you, Mama. But I think I have to go. The villagers watched in stunned silence as the boy approached the tiger. As he placed a small hand on its massive paw, the golden light engulfed them both. The tiger let out a soft growl, almost a purr, before turning and vanishing into the jungle with Ayan. Amara fell to her knees, sobbing. The jungle grew silent once more, and life in Sunderdeep returned to normal. But the villagers knew they would never forget the boy who was born from a tiger's belly, a child of two worlds, destined for a path none could follow. Amara's life was never the same after that fateful night. The jungle, once a place of mystery and life for her, now seemed like a yawning abyss. Every morning, she would wake to the sounds of the village, but her heart remained hollow, longing for the child she had loved as her own. Some villagers tried to console her, but their words only deepened her wounds. However, the jungle's silence in the weeks following Ayan's departure was unnerving. It was as if the forest held its breath, waiting for something. The once frequent sightings of glowing-eyed animals ceased, and the villagers, though relieved, carried an unspoken fear that the calm was only temporary. One evening, while Amara sat by the edge of the forest clutching Ayan's favorite blanket, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Anika, the shaman, her face etched with urgency. Amara, Anika began, her voice low and hurried, he's not gone. The jungle spirit may have taken him, but he is still connected to this world. I've seen it. Amara's heart leapt with both hope and dread. What do you mean? Where is he? Is he safe? Anika hesitated before answering. I've seen him in my visions. Ayan's essence is bound to the jungle now, but he's not merely living among it, he's changing. The tiger was only the beginning. The forest is grooming him, shaping him into something neither human nor beast. Amara's breath caught. I need to see him. Please, Anika, help me find him. The shaman shook her head. It's not that simple. The jungle is alive and it won't allow you to enter freely. If you want to find him, you must prepare yourself for trials, physical, mental, and spiritual. And even if you reach him, he may no longer be the boy you knew. Amara didn't hesitate. Tell me what I need to do. Anika spent the next several days guiding Amara through rituals and preparations. They involved strange herbs, chants, and meditations that left Amara exhausted yet strangely attuned to the world around her. Meanwhile, rumors spread through the village that Amara intended to venture into the jungle. Some called her brave, others thought her foolish. Linda, the outspoken midwife, was particularly vocal in her disapproval. You're risking your life for something that doesn't belong to us, Linda snapped one afternoon. That boy was never meant to stay here. Why can't you let him go? Amara's eyes burned with resolve. Because he's my son. You wouldn't understand. Linda's face softened for a moment, but she quickly masked it with her usual sternness. Just remember, Amara, if you bring trouble back with you, it won't only be you who suffers. It'll be all of us. Amara ignored her and continued her preparations. Finally, the night came when she was ready to enter the jungle. Anika handed her a pouch of protective talismans and herbs before she departed. Stay on the path the jungle shows you, Anika warned. It will test you, but if your love for Ayan is true, you'll find him. The forest was darker than Amara had ever seen it, the canopy above blotting out even the faintest starlight. The air was thick and humid, every sound amplified, branches cracking, leaves rustling, distant animal calls. Amara clutched the talismans tightly, her heart pounding with both fear and determination. Hours turned into days as she navigated the labyrinthine jungle. Strange phenomena began to occur: trees whispering her name, shadows moving without source, and visions of Ayan appearing and disappearing like flickering flames. At one point she came face to face with a massive black panther, its glowing eyes eerily similar to the tiger's. It didn't attack but circled her as if assessing her worth. Amara stood her ground, and after what felt like an eternity, the panther melted back into the shadows. Her trials grew more intense the deeper she ventured. She was forced to confront not only physical challenges, crossing treacherous rivers, surviving on meager rations, but also her deepest fears and regrets. At one point she found herself surrounded by ghostly apparitions of the villagers, all accusing her of selfishness and endangering them by bringing Ayan into their lives. "You should have left him to the jungle," the apparitions hissed. "You're the reason he's lost." "No," Amara screamed, her voice echoing through the forest. "I gave him love. I gave him a home." The apparitions dissolved, leaving her shaken but more determined than ever. Finally, after what felt like weeks, she reached a clearing unlike any she had seen before. The air shimmered with golden light, and at the center stood a massive tree with roots that seemed to pulse like veins. Beneath the tree sat Ayan, his body glowing faintly, his eyes closed as if in a trance. "Ayan?" Amara called, running toward him. The boy opened his eyes, and for a moment, they were filled with recognition and love. "Mama," he whispered. Amara fell to her knees, wrapping him in her arms. The warmth of his body was familiar yet tinged with something otherworldly. "I've missed you so much," she sobbed. "I've come to take you home." Ayan pulled back slightly, his expression conflicted. "Mama, I can't leave. The jungle needs me. I'm part of it now." "No," Amara said fiercely. "You're my son. You belong with me, not this place." Before Ayan could respond, the golden light around them intensified, and a deep, rumbling voice filled the clearing. It was the voice of the jungle itself. "This child is ours," it declared. "He is the bridge between worlds, chosen to maintain the balance. If you take him, chaos will follow." Amara's heart broke at the ultimatum. She looked into Ayan's eyes, searching for an answer. "Is this what you want?" she asked softly. Ayan hesitated, tears streaming down his glowing cheeks. "I love you, Mama. But I can feel it, the jungle is alive in me. I don't want to leave you, but I think this is where I'm meant to be." Amara's sobs shook her entire body, but she knew the truth in his words. With a heavy heart, she kissed his forehead. "Then stay, my love. But promise me you'll never forget me." "I promise," Ayan whispered, his small hands clutching hers. The golden light enveloped them both one last time, and Amara felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. When the light faded, she found herself back at the edge of the jungle, Ayan's blanket clutched tightly in her hands. The forest was silent once more, but this time it felt different, calmer, balanced. Amara returned to Sunderdeep, forever changed. Though she grieved the loss of her son, she found solace in knowing he was fulfilling a purpose far greater than either of them could have imagined. The villagers, too, sensed the change in the jungle and began to respect it as a living, breathing entity. Years passed, and Amara became a revered figure in the village, her story a testament to the power of love and sacrifice. And though she never saw Ayan again, she would often sit at the edge of the forest, feeling the warmth of the golden light in her heart, knowing that her son was watching over both worlds. Amara's life moved forward, but her heart remained tethered to the jungle and the son she had left behind. Her days were filled with tending to the village's needs as a healer, yet she found herself drawn to the edge of the forest every evening, as if hoping for a sign from Ayan. Though she never spoke of him aloud, the villagers whispered of her connection to the boy born of the jungle spirit. Over time, her story became legend, and with it, her name carried both reverence and a quiet caution. One day, a stranger arrived in Sunderdeep. His name was Kale, a wandering scholar with piercing green eyes and an air of quiet intensity. He claimed to be a collector of myths and stories, traveling from village to piece together forgotten lore. He was fascinated by the tale of the boy born from the tiger's belly and sought out Amara as soon as he heard her name. Amara was hesitant to speak with Kale, sensing something unsettling about him. Yet, his persistence wore her down, and one evening she agreed to tell him her story. They sat by the fire in her modest home, and as she recounted the events leading to Ayan's departure, Kale listened intently, his sharp eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, Kale leaned forward, his voice low. "You say the boy is now one with the jungle, that he bridges two worlds. Do you understand the implications of that, Amara? She frowned. I don't care about implications. He's my son, and I did what I had to do to protect him and the village. Kale's lips curled into a thin smile. You're braver than most, I'll give you that. But you've underestimated what he represents. Ayan isn't just a bridge, he's a vessel of immense power. The jungle may be at peace for now, but power like that doesn't remain dormant forever. There are those who would seek to use him, to bend him to their will. Amara's stomach twisted. What are you saying? That someone will try to harm him? Kale hesitated, then leaned back, his expression unreadable. Let's just say, balance is fragile. And there are those who thrive on tipping the scales. Amara's unease deepened. After Kale left that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that his interest in Ayan was more than scholarly curiosity. She began to notice him speaking in hushed tones with some of the villagers, particularly Linda, whose mistrust of Ayan had never waned. Though Amara had grown weary of Linda's sharp tongue over the years, she couldn't ignore the midwife's influence in the village. One evening, as Amara made her way to the edge of the forest, she overheard a heated conversation between Kale and Linda. He's a danger to us all, Linda was saying. I told Amara that from the start, but she wouldn't listen. If you think you can do something about it, then I say go ahead. Kale's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. It's not as simple as doing something, Linda. The boy is no longer just a child. The jungle protects him, and breaking that bond will have consequences. Then why are you here? Linda snapped. If you're so afraid of consequences, maybe you should leave. Kale chuckled darkly. I'm not afraid, Linda. But unlike you, I understand the stakes. The balance must be maintained one way or another. Amara's blood ran cold. She stepped into the clearing, startling them both. What are you planning? She demanded, her voice trembling with anger. Kale regarded her with a calm, almost pitying expression. I'm planning to ensure the safety of this village, and the world beyond it. You may not realize it, Amara, but your son is a ticking time bomb. The jungle's peace is temporary. Sooner or later, his power will attract forces you can't even imagine. And you think you're the one to stop it? Amara spat. You don't even know him. I don't need to, Kale said coolly. I only need to know what he's capable of. Amara turned to Linda, her eyes blazing. And you're helping him? After everything we've been through? Linda crossed her arms defensively. I'm helping the village. You've always put that boy above the rest of us, Amara. It's time someone thought about the bigger picture. Before Amara could respond, Kale raised a hand. Enough. This isn't about personal grudges. It's about survival. He turned to Amara, his expression softening slightly. You love your son. I can see that. But love won't protect him from what's coming. Let me help you, Amara. Together, we can ensure his safety, and the safety of everyone else. Amara's instinct screamed not to trust him, but she knew Kale was right about one thing. Ayan's connection to the jungle made him a target. If she didn't act, others might come with less noble intentions, or worse, succeed in harming him. I'll find him myself, she said firmly. I don't need your help, Kale. Kale sighed, his expression darkening. You're making a mistake, Amara. But I won't stop you. Just know that if you fail, I'll do whatever is necessary. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Amara and Linda in tense silence. Amara wasted no time. She returned to Anika, the shaman, who greeted her with a knowing look. You're going back, aren't you? I have to, Amara said. Ayan's in danger and I won't let anyone hurt him. Anika nodded. The jungle won't make it easy for you this time. It allowed you to see him before because your heart was pure. But now, with so much fear and doubt clouding your mind, the jungle will test you in ways you can't imagine. I don't care, Amara said fiercely. I'll do whatever it takes. The next morning, Amara set off into the jungle once more. The air felt heavier this time, the forest darker and more foreboding. She could feel the jungle resisting her presence, as if sensing her inner turmoil. Strange noises followed her every step, and the ground seemed to shift beneath her feet. But Amara pressed on, her love for Ayan driving her forward. Days turned into weeks and the trials grew more harrowing. At one point, she faced a vision of Ayan consumed by golden flames, his screams echoing through the jungle. The sight nearly broke her, but she pushed through, knowing it was only an illusion. Finally, she reached the golden clearing where she had last seen her son. But this time it was empty. Ayan, she called, her voice cracking. It's me, Mama. Please come to me. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, the ground began to tremble, and the massive tree at the center of the clearing began to glow. From its roots emerged a figure, not the boy she remembered, but a young man with golden eyes and an aura of raw power. "Who comes to disturb the balance?" he said, his voice deeper, unrecognizable. Amara's heart shattered. "Ayan, it's me. Don't you remember?" The figure tilted his head, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Mama?" Amara's heart clenched at the word mama. For a fleeting moment, she saw the boy she had raised, the child she had cradled in her arms, behind the glowing golden eyes of this young man. But the warmth of that moment quickly dissolved as the power radiating from Ayan began to fill the clearing, shaking the earth and swaying the trees around them. "Yes, Ayan. It's me," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "I've come to take you home." The glow around Ayan flickered, his expression caught between confusion and conflict. "Home? This is my home now. The jungle, it's in me, Mama. It's who I am." "No," Amara pleaded, stepping closer despite the waves of energy pushing her back. "You're more than that. You're still my son. You're still the boy who loved to sing with the birds and laugh at the village goats. This power doesn't define you." Ayan's expression faltered, and for a moment, it seemed as though her words might reach him. But then the jungle itself seemed to rise in protest. Vines slithered toward Amara like snakes, encircling her ankles and pulling her back. A deep, guttural roar filled the clearing, not from Ayan but from the forest around him. "You cannot take him," the voice of the jungle boomed. "He is ours. He has accepted his purpose." Amara struggled against the vines, her voice rising in desperation. "He's not yours. He's my son. You can't just take him from me." Ayan raised his hand and the vines halted. The jungle seemed to pause as if waiting for his command. "Mama, please stop," he said softly. "You don't understand. I chose this. The jungle needs me. Without me, the balance will crumble." Amara's tears flowed freely now. "And what about me, Ayan? What about the balance of a mother's heart? I raised you, I loved you, and I let you go once because I thought it was the right thing to do. But I won't let them take you again, not like this." The golden glow around Ayan dimmed slightly, and the young man stepped closer to her. For the first time she could see the internal battle raging within him. "I love you, Mama," he said, his voice breaking. "But I'm not the same. I can feel the jungle in every part of me. It's like, it's alive in my blood." Amara reached for his hands, her fingers brushing against his glowing skin. "You're still my son. That hasn't changed and it never will. You can choose, Ayan. You can come back with me. We'll find another way to protect the balance." Ayan hesitated, his glowing eyes searching hers. But before he could speak, the jungle erupted in fury. The tree behind him began to pulse with light, and a massive, shadowy figure emerged from its roots. It was the tiger, larger and more menacing than ever, its eyes blazing with the same golden glow as Ayan's. "This is not your place," the tiger growled, its voice echoing through the clearing. "You do not belong here. Leave or face the wrath of the jungle." Amara stood her ground, her grip on Ayan's hands tightening. "I won't leave without my son." The tiger roared, and the ground beneath her feet began to crack. The vines surged forward again, this time wrapping around her entire body. Amara gasped as the life was squeezed from her, but she refused to let go of Ayan. "Stop!" Ayan shouted, his voice reverberating with power. The tiger froze, its glowing eyes fixed on him. "She's my mother. She's not a threat." The tiger's form shifted, becoming more ethereal, almost ghostly. "She threatens the balance just as you do by clinging to her. If you abandon your purpose, chaos will follow." Ayan's hands trembled in Amara's grasp. "Mama, I don't know what to do. If I leave, the jungle might destroy everything." Amara's voice was steady despite her fear. "You don't have to do this alone, Ayan. We can find another way. The jungle chose you because you're strong, because you're special. But even the strongest need love. You don't have to sacrifice your humanity to fulfill your purpose." Ayan's glowing eyes filled with tears, and the light around him began to shift, softening into a warm, golden hue. He turned to the tiger, his voice firm. "If the balance depends on me, then it should also depend on my heart. I choose to protect the jungle, but I won't abandon my mother." The tiger let out a low growl, but it didn't advance. Instead, it seemed to study Ayan, its massive form flickering like a dying flame. "You would risk everything for her?" "I would," Ayan said. "Because love is part of the balance too." The tiger stepped back, its form dissolving into the golden light of the tree. The vines holding Amara loosened and fell away, and the jungle grew still once more. Ayan turned to her, his face a mixture of relief and sadness. "Mama," he said softly, "I think I can go with you, but only for a while. The jungle will always call me back." Amara nodded, her tears now a mixture of joy and sorrow. "That's all I ask, my love. Just come home." The golden light enveloped them both, and when it faded they found themselves at the edge of the jungle, where the village lights flickered in the distance. Ayan's glow had dimmed, and he looked more like the boy Amara remembered. But she knew the jungle's power still lived within him, a constant reminder of the world he was destined to protect. As they walked back to Sunderdeep, Amara held his hand tightly, cherishing every moment she had with him. She didn't know how long he would stay, but for now she was content. Her son was with her, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As Amara and Ayan returned to Sunderdeep, the village fell into an uneasy quiet. The sight of Ayan, now older, glowing faintly like an ember refusing to extinguish, sent ripples of awe and fear through the villagers. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some claimed his return would bring prosperity, while others warned of the chaos he might draw back with him. Linda was one of the first to confront them. Her eyes were hard and her tone sharp. "You brought him back?" she demanded. "After everything that's happened, after all the danger, you thought it was wise to bring him here again?" Amara stepped in front of Ayan, shielding him. "He's my son, Linda. He has every right to be here." Linda scoffed. "Your love for him blinds you, Amara. The jungle chose him, not us. Bringing him back is selfish, and it puts all of us at risk." Ayan, his voice calm yet laced with an authority far beyond his years, spoke. "I don't wish harm on anyone, Linda. I've come back because I want to help. The jungle and the village don't have to be enemies." Linda narrowed her eyes, but before she could respond, Bhaskar, the village elder, appeared. His wrinkled face was weary, but his voice carried the weight of decades of wisdom. "Enough, Linda. The boy has returned and we must honor his courage. But we must also be cautious. Ayan, if you mean to help the village, we will listen. But know this, the balance you spoke of before must be preserved." Ayan nodded solemnly. "I understand." Despite Bhaskar's words, the village remained divided. Some villagers welcomed Ayan, grateful for the blessings his presence seemed to bring. Crops flourished overnight, and a drought that had plagued the village for months ended with a sudden, unexpected downpour. Others, however, grew restless, uneasy with his power and the whispers of the jungle that seemed to follow him. Kale, the enigmatic scholar, had not left the village, and his presence grew more unsettling by the day. He watched Ayan from the shadows, his eyes calculating. Amara kept her distance from him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that his interest in Ayan was far from innocent. One evening, as the village prepared for a festival to celebrate the end of the drought, Ayan approached Amara, his expression troubled. "Mama, I feel something wrong. The jungle is restless again." Amara frowned, her heart sinking. "What do you mean? I thought the balance was restored." "It was," Ayan said, "but something's changed. It's as if something or someone is trying to disrupt it." Before Amara could respond, a commotion erupted near the village square. Villagers shouted and pointed toward the jungle, where a massive plume of smoke rose into the sky. The scent of burning wood and leaves filled the air. "The jungle's on fire," someone cried. Panic spread like wildfire among the villagers. Ayan's eyes widened, the faint glow around him intensifying. "No," he whispered. "This isn't natural." Amara grabbed his arm. "Ayan, what's happening?" "It's an attack," he said, his voice trembling with both fear and anger. "Someone is trying to destroy the jungle." Amara hesitated, then knelt in front of her son. "Ayan, Kale thinks you need to learn more about your power, that there are others out there who can help you." Ayan tilted his head, considering her words. "Others? Like me?" Kale nodded. "Yes. You're not alone, Ayan. There are others who understand what it means to be a protector. They can teach you things the jungle can't." Ayan's glow dimmed slightly as he processed this. "But if I leave, what will happen to the jungle? To you, Mama?" Amara took his hands in hers. "The jungle will be here, Ayan, and so will I. But you don't have to decide now. Just promise me you'll think about it." Ayan nodded slowly. "I will." In the days that followed, Ayan seemed more introspective than usual. He spent hours at the edge of the forest, communing with the jungle in a way only he could. Amara gave him space, though her heart ached with worry. She knew Kale was right. Ayan's power was growing, and with it came responsibilities and dangers she couldn't fully comprehend. One afternoon, as Amara was tending to her herb garden, she heard a commotion in the village square. Rushing over, she found a group of villagers gathered around a stranger, a woman clad in flowing green robes, her presence commanding and otherworldly. "I seek the boy born of the jungle," the woman announced, her voice ringing out like a bell. "I am Maya, guardian of the Riverlands, and I have come to test him." The crowd parted as Ayan stepped forward, his glow brighter than ever. "I'm Ayan," he said, his voice steady. "Why are you here?" Maya's sharp eyes softened as she looked at him. "To see if you are truly worthy of the power you carry. The balance of the natural world depends on us, child. If you fail to uphold it, you risk undoing everything we protect." Ayan squared his shoulders. "Then test me." Amara's heart leapt into her throat. "Wait," she called, stepping forward. "He's just a boy." Maya turned to her, her expression unreadable. "He is more than that. If he wishes to carry the mantle of a guardian, he must prove himself." Before Amara could argue, Maya raised her hand, and the ground beneath them began to shimmer. The village square dissolved into a golden field surrounded by rushing rivers, their waters glowing with an eerie light. Maya stood in the center, her robes billowing around her like a storm. "Ayan," she said, her voice firm, "the test begins now." Amara stood frozen, powerless to intervene as her son faced his greatest challenge yet. Ayan stepped forward, his glow intensifying as he entered the golden field. The rivers around him roared like a wild beast, their currents twisting and churning as though alive. Maya stood in the center, her serene demeanor masking the immense power that radiated from her. The villagers, Amara included, were held at bay by an invisible barrier, forced to watch as Ayan faced the test alone. "What do I have to do?" Ayan asked, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Maya extended her hand, and the rivers responded, rising into towering waves that loomed above them. "The test is simple," she said. "The balance of nature is delicate, always shifting, always in flux. You must prove that you can maintain it, even when the forces of chaos threaten to tip the scales." With a flick of her wrist, the waves crashed down toward Ayan. He raised his arms instinctively, and the jungle's power surged through him. Vines erupted from the ground, forming a barrier that absorbed the impact of the water. But the force was immense, and the ground beneath him trembled. "You rely on brute strength," Maya said, her voice echoing above the roar of the rivers. "But balance is not about power. It is about harmony." Ayan gritted his teeth, his glow pulsing as he struggled to hold the barrier in place. The vines strained under the weight of the water, and for a moment, it seemed as though they might snap. But then Ayan closed his eyes, and the glow around him shifted. The vines didn't grow thicker or stronger, they wove together, intertwining in intricate patterns that distributed the force evenly. The water dispersed, flowing harmlessly back into the rivers. Maya nodded approvingly. "Good. You are learning?" Before Ayan could catch his breath, the rivers began to boil, their waters turning to steam that enveloped the field in a thick fog. From the mist emerged shadowy figures, their forms shifting and flickering like phantoms. They surrounded Ayan, their voices whispering in his ears. "You don't belong here," one hissed. "You are nothing but a child," another sneered. Ayan clenched his fists, his glow faltering as doubt crept into his mind. The voices grew louder, their words cutting deeper with each passing moment. He glanced toward the barrier where his mother stood, her face filled with worry. Seeing her gave him strength. "I do belong here," he said, his voice growing stronger. "I am a part of this world just as much as you are." The shadows recoiled, their forms dissolving into the mist. Ayan stood tall, his glow bright and unwavering. Maya smiled faintly. "You have faced fear and doubt, and you have not faltered. But the greatest challenge still lies ahead." She raised her arms, and the rivers converged into a single massive wave that towered over the field. The ground shook violently, and the villagers cried out in alarm. Amara pressed her hands against the invisible barrier, her heart pounding as she watched her son face the overwhelming force. "Ayan," she screamed. "You don't have to do this." But Ayan turned to her, his expression calm. "I do, Mama. It's the only way." He stepped forward, raising his hands as the wave crashed down. This time he didn't summon the jungle's power to fight it. Instead, he let the wave wash over him, his glow merging with the water. The light spread through the rivers, calming their raging currents and restoring their natural flow. The field grew still, and the golden light faded, returning them to the village square. Maya lowered her arms, her expression one of quiet pride. "You have passed, Ayan. You have proven that you are not just a protector of the jungle but a guardian of the balance." The invisible barrier dissolved, and Amara rushed to her son, pulling him into her arms. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Ayan hugged her tightly, his glow warm and steady. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mama." Maya stepped forward, her presence commanding. The test was not only to prove your worth but to prepare you for what lies ahead. You will face challenges far greater than this, Ayan. But I have no doubt that you will rise to meet them. She turned to Amara, her expression softening. You have raised him well. His strength comes not only from the jungle but from your love. Amara nodded, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you. Maya inclined her head, then vanished into a mist that melted into the air. The villagers who had watched the entire ordeal in stunned silence began to cheer, their fear replaced by awe and admiration. In the days that followed, life in Sunderdeep began to return to normal. The villagers treated Ayan with newfound respect, no longer fearing his connection to the jungle. Amara too found a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. She knew that Ayan's journey was far from over, but she also knew that he was ready to face whatever challenges came his way. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ayan sat with Amara at the edge of the forest. The glow around him had dimmed, but it was still there, a reminder of the power he carried. Do you think I'll ever be normal, Mama? He asked quietly. Amara smiled, brushing a hand through his hair. You're not normal, Ayan. You're extraordinary. And that's nothing to be afraid of. He nodded, leaning against her shoulder. I think I'll stay for a while. The jungle will call me back one day, but for now, I just want to be home. Amara kissed the top of his head, her heart full. And I'll be here always. As the stars began to dot the sky, the jungle hummed softly in the distance, a melody of life and balance. And for the first time in a long time, Amara felt whole.